Fake one.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I like the.
It's a special font. Yeah.
Is that serif? Is that what
I added serifs at times.
Yeah,
it's sans serif.
So making sure.
Wow.
Just who knows what you're going to get.
I know. Man, those font jokes are awesome, right?
Yeah, no Comic Sans?
Always funny. Oh, yeah.
I should have done
There you
Comic
go.
Sans. You're right. That's an easy one.
Oh, boy.
Let's see. Calvin, we good? All right. So there's no awesome intro music, but welcome to a very special edition of the Full Moon Show, live and on stage. And my name is James Stevenson. I'm the Senior Community Manager at Insomniac Games, and this is our podcast where we give you kind of the behind-the-scenes production side look at what's been going on at Insomniac. So hopefully some of you came to our panel last night and saw Ratchet Clank demoed live for the first time in the U.S. to the public. But we'll talk a little bit about that and kind of all the other stuff leading to North Carolina. And we're going to start actually with sort of the founding of North Carolina Studio and kind of go through all that sort of stuff and creating Ratchet and the idea and all those sort of things. So it should be a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Sitting on the stage with me today at the far end next to the awesome pink unicorn is Chad Dezern, who is the studio director at Insomniac Games, North Carolina. Hi, Chad.
Hey, James.
And Chad's actually been with Insomniac for a very long time. And tell us about your tenure at Insomniac.
Yeah, I've been at Insomniac since I was a kid at this point, pretty much, about 12 years. I came to Insomniac after working in a couple other places, and I still remember going out with friends at lunch and buying the first Spyro the Dragon game. And just playing it in the office and thinking, wow, this thing is just really well done. Whoever made this really understood a lot about color theory. They really knew how to polish a game. They were really paying attention to little details that at that time a lot of people weren't paying attention to. And it just so happened that a week later, I got a call from an animator friend who had gotten a job at Insomniac. And he said, hey, we're hiring. There's a position open. You should send your portfolio. So I did. And everything just worked out well for me after that.
And Chad was art director on Resistance 2 and several other big games, and has been, a key feature of Insomniac for quite a while now. And so it's really exciting to have him kind of heading up the new effort, along with this man sitting next to me directly, Sean McCabe, who's the production director at Insomniac Games North Carolina, and has also been with Insomniac for some time.
Yeah, I started in 2003 on Ratchet Clank Up Your Arsenal. And before that, I was at Interplay Entertainment, which is gone now. But it's similar to Chad. I remember, playing the original Ratchet and Clank, and it just blew my mind. Like, I was just amazed at how cool that game was. Both technically and artistically. It was really amazing. I remember it was one of those moments where I was actually joked with a friend and said, "Man, it would be amazing to work for Insomniac someday." And they just had a position that opened up, and I remember asking someone and saying, "Hey, do you think I should do you think I should take this?" And they said, "I would do any job there." And fortunately, I got the job and have been here ever since.
Now, to my right is a friend of mine who hangs out with me at Insomniac Burbank down in California and the wonderful city of Los Angeles and surrounding communities. Senior writer TJ Fixman, who has been responsible for writing Ratchet and Clank for quite some time and is now working on not only the Ratchet and Clank comic for DC Wildstorm, which will be hitting next week, and you should call your local comic store because it's awesome.
Thanks for the plug.
Yes, but also Ratchet and Clank All for One. And TJ, you actually had a kind of an interesting start with Insomniac.
Yeah, it was a real bizarre trajectory. I've been with Insomniac just shy of 5 years now, and I came to LA as one of the masses, one of the struggling writers that were looking for work. And by a crazy twist and turn of events, I ended up at Insomniac Games. My first game was Ratchet Clank Tools Destruction that came on about halfway through. And since then, I wrote Quest for Booty. I worked on Resistance 2, Crack in Time, of course, and now All for One. It's been a crazy, crazy ride, but I love working for one of the only game studios out there that still have a focus on humor and fun and just fun characters. So it's been a great ride.
So we also have Calvin, our community specialist and artist dude who's walking around filming. And we have a bunch of other people in the room, which is unusual for a Full Moon Show recording, which we'll be releasing online later this week. But a bunch of you guys. So big hand for all of you guys for coming and being our first live studio audience during the Full Moon Show, which is sort of crazy. So I want to go back and start with sort of the story behind Insomniac North Carolina. Everyone has sort of been wondering, what is this place, and how did this happen? There's another Insomniac studio, and I think everyone had kind of forgotten about it until we announced the game, and we're sort of blown away. But let's go back to that summer when we're working on Resistance 2, and you guys are starting to think about, how this actually happened, and what was kind of the start of it, and what were the conversations that were had around that time with Ted and everyone else?
I mean, it's really kind of simple. I mean, there wasn't a lot to it really. When it came down to it, we just wanted to make more games, but at the same time, we didn't want to grow the studio in Burbank past an insane number of people. We're functioning at a size in Burbank where everybody knows what's going on with the projects, and everybody can stay pretty close to what we're doing. That's really important for us and the way we do things. It's all about having a great team where everybody contributes to the game we're making. So we didn't want to lose that, but we still wanted to do more. We wanted to do more with our engine technology. We had other ideas that we were excited about, things we wanted to pursue. So it made a lot of sense for us to open a new studio. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized it made a lot of sense to open a studio up in a very different place geographically, just because it's like an alternative for talented people who want to stay on the East Coast for one reason or another. And we certainly had a few people in the studio who were interested in making the move. So, we opened up shop with a core group of about 10 people and just kind of grew it from there.
And you guys are both originally from the East Coast, so it kind of made a lot of sense that you guys were looking that might be a great place for you to go back and be a little bit closer to family and still have kind of the same Insomniac feel.
That's it exactly. I mean, we just think that Insomniac has a culture that is worth growing, and it doesn't need to be in one place. I mean, it's portable. A lot of us kind of carried it along with us and really tried to set up something that functioned in a way that was really similar to what we were used to in Burbank, because it's just how we like to work. And frankly, I couldn't imagine anything else. So to be able to do that in a place which is close to my family, close to where I'd love to live, has been this really great thing.
Do you remember what the reaction was when we had a big company meeting where John Fiorito, who's our chief operating officer, kind of announced this to the company, and you guys talked about it? What do you remember that first day or so after that being like, and what were kind of the reactions that people had? And I mean, were there a bunch of people immediately lined up at your desk like, yeah, I want to go back?
We had talked to at least the folks that we were managing right before that meeting, but I can't remember who it was that was sitting next to me. But I remember when that announcement came, or when they got to that slide in the PowerPoint thing, somebody turned to me. I can't repeat what they said. They said "Holy S," and they were just looking at me right there, and I was just kind of like, "Wow, this is really crazy." But so we had talked to people a little bit beforehand, but there was some of that where you just get hoarded with questions and. Mostly how long have you guys been talking about doing this, that kind of thing?
Yeah, how long has this been brewing and we didn't know? So you guys had a good core group of people that went out with you to start, and then you started growing rapidly. So can you kind of talk about that and how many Insomniacs are with you, and then what has kind of transpired since then?
Sure. I mean, well, actually, when we started on day one, there were only 4 of us, and that was me, Sean, Julie Cox, who's our HR generalist, and Carlos Fernandez, who's our IT guy. So we had this little tiny crew there, just kind of working in one single tiny closet-sized room.
Yes.
Yeah, and everything when we were starting up was a big deal. It's like, well, today we got a printer online. That's awesome. I don't have to run home to print stuff
we got
anymore.
high-speed internet. That day was so amazing.
Yeah.
Because before then we were using a Roadrunner or something like that.
Oh no, actually at first Carlos was running up to the Jiffy Lube so that he could borrow their Wi-Fi when we needed to send emails. So that was great. Very high-tech operation, to be sure.
Yeah.
But no, we got everything up and running really quickly. And, people joined us gradually, people who had planned to make the move from Burbank. We were up to 10 or 12 people in no time. Probably that's about how many we had in January of 2009, which was kind of our official kickoff date. And from there, we just kept hiring. We got great portfolios from talented people who wanted to work for Insomniac and wanted to live in the area where we are. And now we're at 30 people, and it's a great group, really experienced, and everybody's really excited about the game we're working on.
So I remember the first time I came to visit Insomniac, North Carolina, we were on the elevator, and I'd never been to this building before, and the elevator doors open up, and I'm on this empty floor that's completely dark, and this is the winter, so it's only 5:30, but it's completely dark, there's no lights on. We kind of step out, and we walk out on this floor, and there's nothing. We're like, where is everybody? And we're kind of tucked over into this little corner office of that floor. We ended up walking around the entire floor, and there's like someone cleaning person like kind of looking at us with a funny look, like, what are you guys doing up here? And we finally saw the little Insomniac Games sign on the door, and it's sort of this trip, because here we are, at this other Insomniac, and we knock on the door and we come inside, and it was like walking into our studio in Burbank.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same exact feel, toys everywhere, a lot of familiar faces. Just lots of trees outside, which is kind of weird. But besides that, so did you guys go out there knowing you were going to make Ratchet and Clank All for One? Was that the original? Had you decided that before, or was it a, right off, sit down first day and start thinking about what game you wanted to make?
No, we went out with a plan in mind, and I really think that's the best way to do it, too. I mean, we knew what we wanted to make, and we knew what we were excited about making, and we'd already talked to the team to make sure that everybody felt the same way about it. Ratchet and Clank All for One is something that we've wanted to do for a long time. It's something that people have asked us to do for a long time, and it just made a lot of sense. We just really knew that we wanted to let people play Ratchet and Clank together with cooperative play, and from there everything kind of fell into place naturally. We knew that we wanted to add a couple more characters after we got Ratchet and Clank running around, and we saw how fun it could be and saw the potential. We saw then that we wanted to support 1 to 4 players, which is where we are now.
So there was actually, it's sort of funny because there's fans out there. There's a couple of fans that almost had an idea based on some of the people that had moved out there. Like when Dave Girton and Greg Baldwin are 2 of our key character artists who have been doing Ratchet and Clank for a very long time. And they also kind of do their own comics and stuff. They're drawing the covers for the Ratchet and Clank comics, which are really, really cool. And they have a little company called Creature Box that has some of their kind of outside of work drawings that are really awesome. And I remember when those guys announced they were moving to North Carolina, there's like a couple posts on our forum like, well, those are guys that are like really into Ratchet. Do you think they're making a Ratchet and Clank game out there? And I'm like, you never know. Maybe they're just looking for something new.
Could be.
People thought a lot of stuff. Like when we interview folks, we don't discuss the game we're working on if it's not announced, and we want to. Like it's really tough when somebody asks you, so what are you guys working on? You can't really. Like there were a few things that we could say about it, that it wasn't a port, that it was sort of a fully realized title. We could talk about it in vague terms, but there were a lot of people that thought we were making Resistance, something in the Resistance universe. There were some people that were really surprised, but delighted, when they found out we were working on it. There's one designer in particular, has a hardcore FPS background. Has made a couple of big FPSs. And I remember when I told him, what we were doing, his eyes just got huge. He was like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy! I never thought I would be working on a game like this." But he really likes it. He was really excited to work on it.
Didn't you once tell a couple people that when you first hired him that you were actually working on a first-person Civil War shooter? Just to mess with him?
That's like the first day joke. Yeah,
that's what I do to everybody on the first day. I was going to make
just to freak them out
a PowerPoint presentation. I tell people that it's called Monitor versus the Miramac, and it's about Civil War naval battles with ironclads.
Ironclad, yeah.
And actually, one guy who is a recent hire got really excited, and he's like, "I've wanted to make a Civil War game since I was a boy."
John O'Brien.
Yeah. So we had to tell him. He was also excited when I told him what it was really. So that was good.
I mean, we've gotten it's interesting too. Like we've been making these games for a while. And so it's a cool mix. Like we really dig these characters, we dig the franchise and the universe. But then the folks, the new folks that we've hired are so excited, to work with them themselves, that it creates a really nice dynamic in the studio, for this project.
Yeah. How is it working on something? I mean, it's a very interesting project from that aspect. I think when people weren't expecting to work on it, but it's also interesting because you're working on something familiar in that it's Ratchet and Clank. It's the Ratchet and Clank universe. It's got TJ writing it. The humor is going to be there. The story is going to be there. But it's also very different. Director's Cam, 4-player online co-op. Do you think part of the excitement is due to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, I think we wanted to give ourselves a new challenge in a big way. I mean, we are very respectful and reverent of the DNA of the Ratchet series, but at the same time, we wanted to take on something new and kind of see where we could take it and make that game that we've been talking about for so long.
So what is it like working with the Burbank office, and how is it kind of, because to explain a little bit about the setup, I guess, is that you're sort of the game team and you're remote, but like to say the engine team, the core team for Insomniac that's working on the Insomniac engine is still based in Burbank, and our tools department is still based in Burbank. So can you talk a little bit about the relationship that you guys have and kind of how that has evolved over the first, I guess 18 months now of working out in the woods?
Well, on the technology side, tools and technology side, we have two folks on the team that in North Carolina that specifically maintain the tools and technology and then augment it as needed. But like anytime we do need help from the core team back there, we're able to get that. There are some practical realities to it, like if they're going to get set up to look